like the music explosion sang back in 1967. A little bit of soul. And that's what we got on this fancy playlist. A little bit of soul and a little bit of New Jack Swing. At number 15 on my fancy playlist, up 6 from 21. God, lovely women, lovely vocals. Boy, they had it made for a while. A very successful group. In Vogue, Runaway Love, although this particular record didn't do as well on Billboard's Hot 100 as some of their previous singles, but I showed some love for this record though at number 15 on my fantasy playlist, October 17th, 1993. In Vogue, they were the brainchild of two producers, kind of like Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, Thomas McElroy and Denzel Foster. Now, earlier on, McElroy and Foster teamed up with Jay King and they produced that splendid record by Timex Social Club called Rumors, which was a huge hit back in the summer of 1986. And then later on, they teamed up again with Jay King, and they were in the group Club Nouveau. They did that remake, sort of an up-tempo remake of Bill Withers' "Lean on Me" in 1987, and then "Why Do You Treat Me So Bad," also around 1987, back in 1987. Then McElroy and Denzel Foster, they branched out and they produced Tony Tone's first album, including Lil Walter. Anybody remember Lil Walter? Back around the spring of 1988, didn't do too well on the pop charts. Went to number 47 on the pop charts, although Tony Tone would have more success later on, having some bigger hits, crossing over on the pop charts. But it was a huge R&B hit, though, Lil Walter. And then a little bit later on, McElroy and Foster, they thought to themselves, let's create a modern day version of the Supremes. A girl group like the Supremes. They auditioned loads of people and they settled on three women, Cindy Herron, Maxine Jones, and Don Robinson. And they were originally known as For You. But they added another singer, Terry Ellis, and they called themselves Vogue. McElroy and Foster, though, they found out there was another group called Vogue, so they changed the name to En Vogue, or On Vogue. And their first album, Born to Sing. Boy, I remember their first hit record. I believe it was Hold On, back in the summer of 1990. And this was the same time when Mariah Carey came out with her first hit, Vision of Love, and Wilson Phillips came out with Hold On in the summer of 1990. It's just, everything was just happening at once back in 1990. And then you got In Vogue, and then Funky Deep is one of the best R&B records that ever came out. Spring and summer of 1992. It was, oh gosh, Give My Lovin', it was called My Lovin', had that great bass line, that guitar, that funk guitar that was reminiscent of James Brown. I think it might have sampled a James Brown record, but it had that old school flavor to it, man. They had, when they covered the song by Aretha Franklin, Give Him Something He Can Feel, God, they just, this is old school harmonies, man. I'm telling you. It's like listening to Sweet Inspirations back in the day, back in the 60s. Who else comes to mind? Well, maybe not the Chantel so much, but the Sweet Inspirations, and I'm trying to think of some more of those R&B groups back in the day, but I can't right now for some reason. They'll come to me after I'm done with this video. Now, how frustrating is that? But boy, they did a great version of that Aretha Franklin record. God, they nailed it. And they did Free Your Mind, a rockin' Free Your Mind, which showed the diversity, the versatility of the producers, McElroy and Foster, and the singing group. And Vogue, boy, they really poured it on in that record. I was really impressed with Free Your Mind. They were rocking. Versatility, that's what I like. And Vogue. Um, Now, on this record, Runaway Love, you got Cindy Herron and Terry Ellis. They do lead vocals. Don Robinson, she sings on the bridge. And Maxine Jones does the spoken part. They just fluid. They work so well together. God, they had the look. They had the sound. I mean, you got a package like that. I mean, you got a hit. You got strike. You got hit right out of the park. hit the ball right out of the park. Well, we got in Vogue, and this is Runaway Love. At Lost 45 went to number, in case I didn't mention it already, I don't know if I did or not, but it went to number 51 on Billboard's Hot 100. But up to number 15 on my fantasy playlist, October 17th, 1993.